Hey guys, welcome back to A-Level Lessons. In this next part, we're going to be looking at Chapter 5 of your Guide to Project Work. It's going to be titled Evaluate, but in essence, it's just an evaluation chapter. Alright, so when it comes to your project work, your written report, please don't write evaluate. Please go and write evaluation or an evaluation of this project. So this is Chapter 5 of this 6-part series. We've already covered the previous 4 parts. You can check out the playlist. I'll leave it in the description below. And then finally, we're going to move on to the next part in the next video on our conclusion, right? A wrap. Let's wrap up this entire project work nicely. So in today's video, we're going to be covering our evaluation, which I believe is one of the most important parts of the written report, right? Because at the end of the day, when you look at the entire written report, right, you've got very, very nice ideas thrown out. But whether or not they actually work in Singapore, right, whether they can actually be implemented, this is something that you will have to evaluate and be able to justify, right, when it comes to presenting your idea, however relevant it may be. Okay, so let's look at how can we evaluate. So the evaluation portion is for you to assess if your proposed solution, aka your project, is truly effective and feasible in the real world, right, especially in the context of Singapore, and if there are any improvements that can be made. So this can only be supported by real-world surveys and interviews that your group has conducted. So at this point in time, your group should have already gone out, especially during the June holidays that just passed, to go and actually look for either, survey groups through your Google Forms and whatnot, or interviews, right? You guys will have conducted your own interviews here and there to get a rough sensing of whether your project can actually work or not. So the various components, we're going to cover the evaluation of the solution, any improvements that can be made, and any additions, right? I know they sound quite similar. I'll explain to you later what these two components are. First off, the evaluation of the solution. So provide a brief introduction as to why your evaluation will be justified. So what do I mean by this? For instance, state the number of people that you surveyed. So maybe you can state that, alright, we have conducted a survey across 300 students, right? They all feel this way or whatnot. Right, and the demographic type. So are they students? Are they the elderly? Are they children? Are they disabled? Right? Who is this demographic type? State the interviewees as well. Identified. So who did you interview? Maybe you interviewed someone from the Ministry of Health. Maybe you interviewed someone from a certain company. Right? So state who this interviewee is and their accreditation. So how are they made credible? Right? Do they potentially have a degree in the field of your project? Let's say you're looking at the environment and they have a degree in environmental studies. So that helps to enforce and enhance their credibility in showing that your solution will make it or break it. Not break it. That doesn't make sense, right? Make it or fail, okay? Next one will be to provide any form of endorsements if you have made by the various stakeholders, right? Sometimes there will be certain stakeholders, either you have interviewed or you have researched online who stand on your side of the project, right? They say that, okay, this project should definitely be implemented. We endorse it, right? We feel that it should be thrown out into our society, right? Because it has got certain potentials to it. So this can refer to approval or support in the project, and it will aid in showing the credibility as well as potential for your project to be successful. So this is important, right? This is just a brief outline as to the various pluses that you have to your project, but definitely shows a lot, right? And it goes a long way in showing whether your project is actually employable in Singapore. So you can use diagrams as well to illustrate, right? This can be in the form of histograms, bar charts, pie charts, line graphs. So for example, if you conducted a survey, right? Survey responses on, let's say, the facilities of the cafe, right? Maybe you're doing a project on a cafe. So show us, right, what are the various responses? So maybe some of them want free Wi-Fi, some of them prefer hangout rooms, educational corners, crafting rooms. This will help you to assess and determine what the general public feels towards, and hence allow you to make the various improvements or additions to your project. Right? So this is actually based on the survey responses or your interviewees' responses, and from there we extract certain data and add on to our project to make it even better. So remember to always evaluate the diagram as well. So this is also known as translating them into words thereafter and why the numbers are significant or not. So don't just throw in a diagram and then just leave it, right? To the examiner or the marker, they'll be like, okay, so what is this diagram trying to say? So remember to evaluate it, state in words what exactly the various results are showing, what the numbers are reflective of, right? You want to try and write this out in words. So next one would be to introduce any form of improvements that you can make, right? This could be in the form of whatever that you've collected from your data. So whatever you collected from your data, you'll be able to make improvements from it. Right? An example would be this: if the organization interviewed mentioned that they are willing to provide a 24-hour service, 24/7 service, an improvement could be to facilitate this arrangement for round-the-clock security. Right? So let's say if whatever the organization or company or government board that you've interviewed feels that there is a certain addition and a certain improvement that they can make, go ahead and add this improvement to your own project. Right? It helps to improve the overall reliability of the various solutions that you have proposed. Next would be your additions. So based off the interviews and surveys, your group may discover new insights and suggestions, right, that was not originally part of the main project. So you can feel free to add these as well, right, if it makes sense. So if let's say the group that you've interviewed, right, they suggest that you introduce maybe say free charging stations, right? Why not just introduce them, right? It may come at a higher cost, but it could be something that is definitely addable, right? And you can add it to your project if feasible. Right, so ensure that all of these new additions they remain in line with the project's overall aim and is feasible to be implemented as well. So make sure it's not something too extreme, because sometimes when you survey certain people, they may provide certain more extreme additions, right? You don't want to introduce those because it may not actually add up to ensuring that your project is still feasible in implementation. So all in all, chapter 5 can look something like this. Quite a simple chapter, but very, very important. So you want to have an evaluation of the main solution, any form of improvements, and any form of additions if you have, especially to the specific solutions. So improvements in general are improvements that can be made to the whole project, while additions tend to be made to the individual solutions or the sub-solutions that you have crafted in the previous chapter, chapter 4. Alright, so that is all for this video. Stay tuned for the next part on chapter 6 on our conclusion, and I will see you guys then. Bye bye.